We have to be in an era where we understand there are going to be up and down situations, there are going to be struggles. We have to be able to put money aside in order to meet our responsibilities during the up and down period.
In this edition of The Color Between the Lines, I'm speaking with author and financial coach Michael Wynn, whose book, Habits Don't Lie, explores how small, consistent actions can lead to major breakthroughs. Michael opens up about his own journey, overcoming depression, financial setbacks, and self-sabotage, and how building good habits helped him reclaim his life and purpose. Given the fact that a lot of people are struggling, they're struggling financially. Everybody's, I mean, the prices are crazy. You've seen the eggs in the grocery store. A lot of folks are trying to figure out, how do I do this? And you say you've had, you've gone through your tough times as well. What would be some of the things that you would advise people in these times to try and get their handle around just the financial day to day? Not talking about saving, but just about the day to day.
Yeah, day to day, I always start off with focus on understanding. Yeah, I want to get them to ground zero. Understanding is important. The financial literacy side of running, because we inherited most of in our Black communities, inherited not so good, somewhat, some would say poor financial strategies. So the main thing is to understand what I start off in my book, Habits Don't Lie, I talk about no money. I intentionally wrote KNOW so people can think of no money, NO, but it's no money. And that spinoff, the habit effect, it talks about valuing good habits for financial stability. Before financial freedom comes, people need to learn how to pay their bills. So, with that in mind, I use that to get into focus on understanding, because we have to be in an era where we understand there are going to be up and down situations, there are going to be struggles. We have to be able to put money aside in order to meet our responsibilities during the up and down period, in times. So when people are struggling like that, they have to resort to really having that heart to heart conversation, because things are drastically changing. And it's not the end of the world, but we have to make an adjustment. So I've always talked some of my clients into understanding what is their responsibilities as far as trying to make it through the week. You know, real, what are the things that you gotta have? What are the things that you want? What are the things that you're gonna put aside because of the certain situations? So that's how I get them into it.
All right. Your book emphasizes the importance of habits in overcoming obstacles. Can you share a personal experience where a specific habit helped you turn, I guess, a major setback into success?
Yes, the key to what I started speaking about, it was a awakening that I had a situation. I dealt with bipolar depression disorder, and I went through a whole series of trying to stay in a professional job and a professional career at the same time, masking my situation because it was a stigma, and I took it for that. And being in a financial industry, I had my challenges with keeping the job straight. So that particular situation mounted into me accepting my diagnosis. And when I went to my therapist, my doctor and my therapist, she recommended habits because she thought I had a habit formation based on my career path of being a financial expert, a licensed builder. So she asked me to focus on that. And when I came up with my what I call a habit matrix, or my structure, I looked at that as the springboard. And then it goes into a lot of situations where I use my habits to help me overcome this obstacle, because I was dealing with bipolar depression, bankruptcy. All of these are part of my conditions. So the key fact was I had a list of habits that I kind of sketched out as I was going through my whole process, understanding or taking her advice on finding people and finding scholars that can get me focused. And when I formed those habits, the biggest thing that I had was to put it to test. When part of one of my habits was to was to affirmations, find a place, a personal place to a positive area, nothing negative, and to meditate and pray. As I visualize on faith, that was the habit. That condition was to the three things was to the affirmations that I needed to see myself in a different light. I had to go through those affirmations. Then the next step was to understand that you had to have your private area where it's nothing but positivity. You're reading, you're meditating, you're praying. And then the last thing, part of that visualizing faith came with challenging your negative thoughts and situations, which I go into a lot about that because I overcame that particular breakthrough was built around me really finding what negative what negative thoughts were, you know. So that's how I really came out of it, just trying to focus. So my setback was really hard um, situation because I had a family and they saw me in a different light than I saw myself. I would scream and yell for little simple things, and my two sons would call me the Hulk, you know, the green monster, this crazy man. And I'm going about my ways because I feel obligated to raise a family in a situation that would get me to the next level. And so I'm not paying attention to anybody until I have my incidents, I pass out, I go through all these different things. So I had to find my way back. And finding my way back was to identify those habits that helped me best. And within 10 years, I was off medication. I was on some hard medication. And it came in concert with working a job, dealing with the politics of the job, and trying to find a way to support my theory of getting off of this medication and feeling good about myself. So everything was pulling against me, you know, during the time. So I made a shift in jobs because I was trying to hold on to what I had, being selected as in a key position. I was the auditor in charge of the first casino built in Detroit. So I'm trying to hold on to that at the same time, masking this disorder. And it's an interesting story about how it came apart. And then I had to rebound from all of that and believe that within those 10 years, I found my way through all of that.
Hmm. I know that your story is so unique and so interesting in terms of being able to bounce back and change things, but it didn't happen overnight. What kind of habits do you think that other Black folks who are, facing systemic and personal financial challenges, what mindsets or habits do you suggest that they take on to help, break cycles of financial struggle?
In financial struggles, I've always say first in any of the obstacles, visualize faith first, and target your success. When I talk about financial struggles, I put them in a position where they have to understand what is it that they need. They need to go through this process of thinking that I need to live every day. I need to support my family, and I would like to leave generational wealth. In addition, some people want to have a business, so they have to get over the obstacles of running a business, and they face with fear, they face with being perfectionist people, and trying to connect, trying to do so much at the same time, get people in a situation of stress. And I always say stress leads to the rest. Experiencing what stress did to me, I find it a good conversation to lay that out. Is that this is your roadmap, to success. You have to understand the faith that come with it, the work that you have to put behind understanding.
Hey, if you're finding value in this conversation, please do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the Color Between the Lines podcast and YouTube channel. It's for free. Your support helps me continue sharing powerful stories like this one with Michael Wynn, and it really helps us reach even more people who need a little inspiration and direction in challenging times.
Ties into trying to reduce your habits. I wrote a quote: "Your habits will determine your level of success." And I asked him, "What does that mean to you?" It's because your habits, my success, and your success is different. One of the habits I talk about is target success. So I would get people focused on understanding what success means to them. If they have to work 16 hours, or if their body can take that, and they have a family and they have kids, they're in all these multiple programs, then how does that look for you? How can you actually sit down and formulate what I call a habit matrix for every area that you can be productive? Because that's the thing, is to trying to stay in tune so that you don't explode near the end, near the end of any goals that you have.
Mm. I know that a lot of people talk about self-sabotage. And I know that some people, that for them it's maybe buying, going in shopping or online shopping, or maybe even just sitting and looking at your phone and swiping for several minutes at a time. What would you say are some of the common self-sabotaging habits that prevent people from being successful financially?
Yeah, the first thing is again understand this financial stability, because your goal is to be able to be stable, to be able to pay your bills. So what people do when they self-sabotage is they feel like their worth, that they believe their worthiness is more to having more than what they have, because they believe that it's owed to them to treat themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to be in a situation where you are identified that you can afford it. You identified your stability. Anyway, a lot of people find that they have to do more for themselves and their children that they didn't have. And that gets them into a situation that they can't handle. If they're not meeting their financial stability, then they're setting themselves up for failure. They're setting themselves up for a lot of things. If they're ready to run a business, they don't understand, or people don't understand what it takes as far as having proper financial management. We we want to start a business. We don't identify it in our business plans, so we can't follow our goals. It's just like running a household. If you don't identify where you want to go, where you want to get your first house, how are you going to maintain that house? Then you can't jump to start a business. I've worked with people who have that situation going on, and they can't tell me. They're afraid to tell me the truth when it comes to it. I say, it's no problem. Do you have a business plan? Are you following it? And they beat around the bush and finally come out and say, I don't even know what a business plan is. And I actually talk about in my book, Habits Don't Lie, your personal business plan, the understanding of what it is that you want to first run your household. You have to have a roadmap to understanding how you're going to get to the next step. If you are child, you don't have any children, that's one thing, but you still have to support yourself. And beyond that, you have to make sure that you and your significant other are equipped with, if one would pass away or something like that, you want to make sure that they have enough. And you have to be able to evaluate and analyze those plans, whether it's personal or business. Often, more often, you'll be surprised that we'll say it, we'll have it in our mind that I'm supposed to make X amount of money when it comes to financial um, projections, but we really don't know unless we look at it, unless we sit down and talk with our family, our significant others, our partners, and say, this is where we were and this is where we need to be. So it's not a lot of work when you think about it. It should actually get people motivated more to say that I can do this and I can be here in X amount of months, X amount of years. And instead of running away from it, I try to get people, I try to coach them to look at the value, look at where you can be, and look what you can gain through that process.
I guess what's the biggest takeaway you want readers to come away with when they finish Habits Don't Lie?
Habits don't lie. I talk about two areas. Again, visualize faith and think repeat. Visualize faith, again, got me to find my way through affirmations, finding a private space, and finding a way to challenge every negative thought that I have. And one of my habits I talk about, think repeat, is when you find your way, then that process that worked with you, you refine it and then you constantly repeat it. That's the purpose of the habit, because it drives you into getting the things that you want. I often talk to them about every situation that you are faced with. It's a way to overcome your obstacles. You first believe in yourself. You believe you can see yourself out of it. And then you focus on repeating that process. Once you find your small win or your tiny breakthrough or whatever you want to call it, and you honor that. And that's what I hope that they get out of it, that it's possible, because the plan for me was to be on medication for a long time. And I got off of it for 10 years and I was on some strong stuff, lithium. Then they put me on Prozac. And then they said, okay, now try Prozac and Depakote. Depakote is not even for mental illness, it's for seizures. And they just wanted to give you this cocktail because they experiment. They try to find ways that they want you to go through a process of curing your illness or whatever the case may be. But it's not a good mix when you're trying to work as a professional. So I speak to that a lot in the book, that the challenges that I had with myself.
My thanks to Michael Wynn, author of Habits Don't Lie, for sharing his personal journey and insights on how discipline, faith, and mindset can really change everything. You can learn more about his coaching, his work, and his book at Coach Wynn. That's WIN.com. I'm Esther Dillard.